Yeah, absolutely. And we are already loaded into the game, so I am ready for this. The players are ready, like you said, and spawning. In the bottom right high side of the map, it is for Storm Gaming SpeCial.
Taking on the blue Protoss in the top left from Basilisk, we have got Trigger.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Gonna be going for the Reaper wall of here to start. And yeah, I'm with you. Like, SpeCial is usually the type of player that has had such a long career, stemming all the way back to Brood War, that obviously there's gonna be fluctuations and how he performs, and always a question mark of if he's running out of gas at some points, right? But I think when he bounces back, he's always extremely strong. He can be an extremely strong threat to anyone. And I would say that as of late, he's been looking pretty good, actually. But then again, so has Trigger.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like SpeCial, like, he has had some matches which are good, and then I cast a tournament where he went 0-7 or so, and it was like, oh,
wow.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, the variance for me, and just, you know, kind of depends where you catch him. Of course, he absolutely brings his best to these DreamHack regionals. We know that he won Latin America pretty much every time, apart from the very last time it was Latin America before it became the Americas. So yeah, like I say, just makes it hard for me to judge, because I guess I've got some bias from casting some not so hot games from him, but. And also, I guess I see Trigger as being this player who's been on the rise so much lately as well, and just consistently improving. So I think it's going to be a fun clash. I'm very excited to see what the series brings, and just to kind of dive in head first more than anything, you know, just let the players do the talking, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to me, SpeCial is kind of like a Raynor type player, in the sense that I think he goes on the larger stage, and we're kind of there, right? So. I mean, that speaks to his consistency, the amount of times that he has won Latin America. So maybe if he is not with the spotlight on it, if he didn't get a lot of time to prepare, etc., where I think he's very strong, then he's liable to drop the ball from time to time. But I think he's likely to bring his A game. That said, Trigger has had such incredible results and such a meteoric rise that doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to win against him. Trigger at his best is one of the best Protoss, out there right now. So anything can happen here for sure.
Yeah, very true. He is. He's really been taking it seriously, improving. I think ever since he joined Basilisk, taking yet another just big step up. Very fun. This opening, a probe died to the Reaper scouting. Not really anything too wild there. It was this in-base expansion from SpeCial, hiding all of his production structures to the left side of his base. But Trigger did get in and see the barracks was there, saw the factory was coming down there, and got a lot of that information. So SpeCial is just setting up for a Widow Mine drop to start us out. 4 Widow Mines, and Trigger's option is the Twilight Council, looking to play some Blink. We saw some very deadly Blink play in the previous PvT before we went to that longer break, Cats. And we'll see what kind of Blink Trigger wants to play, see how many gates he wants to set up to, or if he just wants to focus on that faster third base as well.
Yeah, quick robo as well, so I think Trigger has a good read on what this could be from SpeCial, and SpeCial is indeed getting that armory for the Cloaked Widow Mines as well. So Trigger should, on paper, be somewhat prepared for this, even though, all he scouted was a factory, really, and the placement to me is more suggestive of anything that SpeCial wanted not to get scouted, to make Trigger scout out on the map for proxies and such, more than it is indicative of me, to me at least, of a build order like this one. So nice read from Trigger.
Yeah, absolutely. As a couple Stalkers go poking the Reaper down, the left side is going to get pushed away there. The Widow Mine drop's about to show up, so Stalker's in position on the natural. Like you said, this robo very important. Get the obs up. And initially, you're going to put our first damage onto the Medivac. Going to continue putting damage onto the Medivac. A little bit of a slow going, getting away there. He loses a Stalker and the probes. And he loses another Stalker too.
Wow.
Oh, what a start that is. Kills the Medivac, kills the Widow Mine that was off in the main. But, well, we actually have one active mine on this low ground as well. And if Trigger doesn't recognize that, that could be really bad. He's going to lose another Stalker and more probes. Oh my god.
Oh, these are some nice bundles to pick up here in this early game. And I love that SpeCial didn't reposition in spite of scouting the 2 Stalkers set up at the natural with the Reaper. He already thinks, okay, I already committed a lot of the pathing from my Medivac onto this position, and maybe 2 Stalkers is just not, enough to stop it. And if that was his assessment, he was right. But Trigger getting a little bit unlucky, almost, it feels like, with those shots, and SpeCial taking a great start here.
He really got killed by his own... oh my god, loses the Observer, by the way, to splash damage. It just doesn't end. Yeah, he basically died to his shield battery because the shield battery choked him up and stopped him escaping quickly enough from the mines. So I think that obviously had a big play, and like I say, now we're down in orbit, so it's taking a little while longer to clean up. This Widow Mine's picking up kills, man. It is just not ending. An absolutely bullying performance in game number 1 so far from SpeCial, who back at home is off and away. CC down on the natural, extra racks coming up, and ready to just keep on producing that tech. Even now, a Viking flying into the main base, so that's going to try and pull some probes around and get some kills as well. Now, this has just turned into a really brutal game for Trigger.
It's a disaster completely. I mean, even losing this much mining time, another observer goes down. Are you shitting me? I mean, he is. Yeah, I mean, I would GG out. Mental fortitude here from Trigger.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely, man. I mean, just honestly, everything's gone horribly. I mean, just getting the observer again means once again we're waiting for a new observer. It's another 75 gas, and it's just so expensive. There is no way Trigger has a good setup when SpeCial comes running across the map to try and kill him, because he's just been doing nothing but taking damage and, you know, basically falling around. I mean, this Reaper tries to get that probe, doesn't quite. There was already a Widow Mine that dealt damage here, though. Like I say, the damage has just kept on coming, cats.
Oh my, let's play Roddy's guessing game here. We're the very short game. How many probes do you think have fallen?
19.
I'm gonna go with 7. I don't really know how to open that
20.
tab, so I can't even cheat. 20, dang.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a lot,
brutal.
right? Like for 6 minutes into the game, geez, another observer is gonna be taken down. You do not want to be one of Trigger's observers today, by the looks of it. That's the 3rd one down, if my count doesn't betray me. And somehow, I mean, he's kind of even in supply, but that, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine he wins this game. That would be a miracle.
I'm scared being the observer in this game, cats. I feel like SpeCial might open fire on me at some point soon. He's been relentless. They've not lasted more than 20 seconds. Yeah, just... Yeah, I mean, the army supply is there for SpeCial. He is taking some presence on the map. He's soon to have Stim. He's going to have a drop going around. There's no way Trigger has enough to deal with all of this. And obviously, as the first Colossus pops out, there's the Raven that can Matrix and take that away when this push gets all the way across. And Trigger just not quite responding quickly to this drop in the main. Does only lose a couple of probes. It was not kind of focused fire from SpeCial as he tries to come forward. Needs to be careful not to lose the Raven, of course. We do not want to let that go down unnecessarily,
And
but
it does.
there you go.
Yeah, it does. SpeCial getting a little bit hasty here, both with the drop and the move up. Not waiting for Stim, which is now about to complete. So trying to continue to snowball the pressure there. But Stim is such an important upgrade. And combat shield's not yet done either. A single Colossus fending off the medevac as SpeCial wants Trigger to reposition some stalkers at the very least. This push still looks incredibly strong from SpeCial. The battery is out of energy. SpeCial thinks this is his time to pounce. He is going to do just that as he chases the Colossus back to the shield battery in the natural expansion. Now the drop from the main has also joined at the 3rd, and things go from bad to worse. But I mean, if Trigger can somehow stabilize charge, almost done, but not quite.
Yeah, just not quite. And that Colossus, it came to join this fight finally. It was obviously one Colossus was in that main base for such a long time. That's what really allowed you to be so powerful here. But if it wasn't in the main base would have obviously been in a lot of trouble too, which it had already been. So yeah, SpeCial just a case of getting some reinforcements. Got a couple units in the main still active as well. And as reinforcements do show up, it does look like SpeCial has way too much. There's a lot of mines, admittedly, but every single time this Colossus is taking a tank shot, that's just a tank shot you're not really meant to be taking. And I'm not sure where this medevac's going. Maybe just drop on top of the Colossus. A little fancy, but maybe unnecessary too. Just could have waited for some extra units. I mean, SpeCial has this game absolutely under lock and key, and it's going to be going up to a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing that Trigger can do from this point on. His 3rd has fallen. He is lagging behind 50 supply. And SpeCial with all the options here in a very powerful position where he can choose to go into the main if he wishes. He can send just one single medevac with Widow Mines to continue to annoy his opponent, and there is no way Trigger can spread himself thin enough whilst defending at the front. So he's just gonna continue to take on damage, and yeah, I mean, great mental fortitude from him, to say the least. But we're running out of words here with each other. There's not much left to say in this game.
There really is not. A few Marauders getting to the front, a couple of Marines still firing, Widow Mines about to finish up as well. Our tank fire continues on the gateway at the front also, as our Colossus continues to build as well. Another Widow Mine coming to the front, and Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is just a game of waiting. I'm not really sure what Trigger feels like is about to happen. He starts up the Dark Shrine, but yeah, he's just happy to sit here, lose the power to the Robo facility, just another kick in the teeth. As yeah, he does decide that that's enough punishment, and it's time to leave the game. SpeCial dominates game 1, quite frankly.
Yeah, commendable to keep the gears turning there for Trigger and dropping that Dark Shrine, you know, like still to, because sometimes you're just in the game kind of just feeling bad, right? It's like, okay, I'm dead. Let me just simmer on it for a second, like, you know, kind of take a break within the match. And but Trigger was still in it, right? He was still plugged. He was still trying to make things happen. And I think that's a great attitude to have. It's what you need, because I mean, many players would have left after the first few mine drops, and Trigger showed that in spite of all of that, he managed to climb back up in terms of, say, workers, and his production was on point. So if SpeCial wasn't as good as he is at continuing on with the pressure, at snowballing, maybe there's a universe where he stabilizes against a worse player, or a SpeCial that's setting up a third or something like that instead, a little bit faster. But not to be the case this time around. Props to Trigger for sticking around, but SpeCial just completely dominated.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. SpeCial just, I mean, from the very start, just not stopping, just go, 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 and just absolutely convincing stuff from him. I mean, he always brings these fun builds, aggressive builds to the table a lot of the time, right? And this was absolutely no different. He just came in and did something fun. And even though Trigger kind of, you know, we said we thought he had a good idea of what it was. He got the Robo down and everything. He had the prep, the execution, the defense. It was that avalanching effect, that snowball effect. Once he lost the first Stalker in the first few probes, it just felt like then he was constantly like one mistake, you know, always making one mistake that led to the next mistake, and he just couldn't escape that grasp. As just getting our players ready, and we'll dive into Ancient Cistern for map number 2 of this series. So, Ancient Cistern, I like that for Protoss, at least a little bit of a longer map. Terran pushes take a while longer to get there, and it's a good layout of bases for Protoss players as well, to just take a nice setup, a good 3 or 4 base setup, and just play that macro game, which a lot of the time is where Protoss somewhat likes being.
Yeah, for sure. So likely to see a little bit of a longer game here, perhaps a little bit less aggression on the side of SpeCial, but you never know with him. He is likely to just do whatever he wants, and especially if he feels like he has momentum going, he could just transition to continue to pile up the aggression. There's going to be the mental element that is so difficult to shake off, right? Like when the mine hits 1 Stalker and 5 probes, how do you not react in your mind, right? Like, how do you say that's okay? It's so difficult. And then if the pressure keeps piling up before you've shaken that feeling, it just becomes more and more difficult. And it seemed like nothing went right for Trigger. I mean, it was every time a unit and probes for the first 3 Widow Mine drops or so. Just tough stuff.
Yep. Yeah, it was honestly just brutal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Not really much else to add to that one. Barracks drops down. It is going to be outside of the base. A little bit of a fun game here from SpeCial. Obviously hit the unit structures to the left-hand side of his base last time, making it a little bit longer to before Trigger was able to scout it. This time, going to have the barracks just out of the base. And again, probably just get this probe scouting around a little bit, trying to figure out, is this a serious neo-proxy or anything? Is this something I have to be worried about? That's something that Trigger really does have to kind of go through the motions of and, like I say, get figured out ASAP.
Yeah, it's likely for him to figure it out by paying with the life of the probe to the first Reaper, potentially, as actually Trigger's not even gonna believe SpeCial could have hidden the barracks inside his base again. Instead checks the natural right away, not gonna find it there. And that's a really cute move, actually, because if the barracks was building at the natural, maybe there's an opportunity that he can delay it. Whereas if he goes into the main, much less likely. So I like that he rerouted to the natural to look for it first there. And not gonna find it, of course. And will now continue to search. SpeCial now traps the probe. So now, decision for SpeCial. Do you cross the map with the Reaper? Or do you just get your free kill on the probe? I think cross the map, given that... Kill the probe?
Kill the probe every time, I think.
Okay. Yeah, and he's gonna agree with you on that. I thought maybe since he's putting the SCV onto the probe, could be a good idea. But of course, killing the probe right away with the Reaper guarantees that you can conceal or continue to conceal what your follow-up is going to be.
Yeah, conceal information, and then just, you know, that probe is down. Like, I think just getting rid of the information alone can be quite nice. Obviously, you can see gas counts and, you know, times that workers get put back on gas and things, and the add-on that goes onto this factory. So now Trigger's playing a little bit more in the dark. And it's just so quick for the Reaper to pop in and kill that probe, and then to go across the map. Like, it's what, like maybe a 10-second, maybe a bit more than 10, but it's not that major a difference, and I'm not sure you're really looking to find too much damage across the map when the barracks is this far back anyway, so... Yeah, if the barracks was obviously closer to the other side, then I think you commit on to the other side.
That's a very good point. Yeah, the equation definitely shifts as the Reaper has more potential to damage before units are out, but Trigger had a very prompt Stalker regardless, so unlikely to find much would have been special on the other side. Makes the right decision to go for the probe, and now the Stalker having to spend its first recall and taking a little bit of hull damage thanks to those grenades as well.
Yeah, cute little play. Obviously forces the recall. That's less energy that goes into a Chrono Boost or so. That maybe gives you a bit more of an option. No Reaper wall off this game, Cat, so potential for these Reapers to hop up into the main base immediately, and, well, there is going to be a unit split here, as the Reaper Hellion combo will mostly want to be scouting here, of course, as well, so let's see if they can pick up some info. As into the base we go, the Reapers, well, they will not survive too long, and they have already seen the Twilight Council, so, yeah, not much to be done. The Hellion on the low ground is deflected by the Adept as well. Good defense from Trigger.
Yeah, good defense from Trigger. Also sees the Chrono Boost. Energy allocation onto the, in this case, the Blink upgrade. That special has to be cognizant of, and remember he spent some energy as well on the recall, so Trigger's not going to be able to put too much into developing his economy perhaps as much as he would like. Instead, he is going to have to make this Blink work in his favor. Perhaps looking to put on some aggression, or perhaps just looking to deflect something like what Special did last game with the Widowmine drop, but that's not happening. It is the BC, the Nathaniel Special.
That battle cruiser. Man, Special was always very fun with BCs in this matchup, because he would oftentimes do like almost a 2-base BC all-in, where the BC is like the distraction for the big bio army to A, get set up, and B, then to move across the map without being slowed down by stalkers, right? So I always thought that was very fun, and it was very cool to play. And we do see the fusion core now completed, so it is time to maybe make use of that. As you have a Hellion checking on the third base, and is actually going to be able to grab a probe kill and gets information. So fantastic Hellion at the tail end. You didn't expect that to do much else this game. They actually did a pretty reasonable amount.
Yeah, indeed, because it was weak enough that that's all it could have ever looked for, right? So Special knew what the best bargain for him was, and he took it. And that really is something. And I love the strategy that you're describing as well, because the BC, you require so many resources to be allocated to it. So, you know, it's potential. It's got potential to kill some probes, perhaps in the back of a mineral line or something of the sorts, but it's almost guaranteed to pull the army back of Trigger, or at least a good portion. And you have to pull the exact amount, and it's often going to be higher than the value of the BC itself, though it is a very expensive single unit to get out. Accounting for the fusion core and the starport build time, it's still a good chunk of stalkers that you're going to have to account for the BC with.
Yeah, absolutely. It just uses up so much of your supply, and definitely makes it a bit awkward. 7 stalkers out, obviously, as well, depending where the BC goes. There's multiple bases you have to check. Right now, there is the stalkers held in the back of the main. That's where the BC teleports to. I mean, Special is going to use the BC as a way to get the medevac in for the mines, so the probes have to pull away. BC kills the first stalker. The mines unburrow, and one of them will go down. The medevac will go down as well now, as the BC is just going to continue through. 2 probes killed so far, and there is a bit of a push from Special heading to the third base of Trigger.
You love to see it. I'm almost surprised that the Widow Mines weren't just dropped to protect the BC from the stalkers to some degree, because that buys even more time. Instead, Special goes for the throat. He says, okay, if these Widow Mines get some good shots, fantastic. But I think the safer play would have been to just defend the BC there.
Yeah, I think so too. And now this attack hasn't continued, so now you do get everything from Trigger to the third base, so this attack especially should get halted. The Colossus especially is going to shut this down, and this is not going to do anything. We trade for a couple of Stalkers, but yeah, that is really just... I think that's rough. That's a lot of units lost from Special. This was a really good cleanup from Trigger, and just really good attention to detail. He knew the moment that he was done with his BC to get across to the front of this third. He recognized what Special was going to do. He knows Special likes doing these kind of things. And yeah, he was in position to get on top of it and shut it down straight away.
Yeah, and that is where you can make the argument. Either the Widow Mines to protect the BC, buy you more time, make it more difficult to dislodge, or even just wait with the BC until your troops are a little closer. Second BC here, not going to accomplish much at all. 3 probes go down, but they're both now in the red, and one of them will have a teleport much sooner than the other, so you're always going to have a BC kind of trapped in the back there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's nice because it keeps some Stalkers there in theory, but Trigger's just going to say, I'm going to move out. I think Trigger really recognizes he did a lot cleaning up that army on the third base, and that he really believes he's got a moment now to go to this other side and get on top of this base and to deal some freaking damage. And I do not disagree in the slightest. All these Stalkers coming over. I mean, there's just not a lot here from SpeCial. These Marines are unupgraded. There's 2 siege tanks, but if we get on top of those quickly, they're going to just melt. I mean, the Marines are just not going to do that much right now, and Trigger sees everything. The Observer was revealing everything going on, so he knows what the setup is. He's got charge lots to kind of tank a little bit of the initial damage too. There's the blink for the siege tanks, and I just don't think this game lasts very long, Cats.
Not at all. It's looking all but done here. There was a little bit of a window here that Trigger exploits as well before Yamato, which would meant 2 or potentially even 3 units deleted, which would have helped a whole lot. If those bunkers are up, if Yamato is up, maybe SpeCial stands a chance to hold just barely. But as it stands, and with the ugly trades that he took earlier, not a chance. No way Jose. No way Juan in this case, I suppose.
Yeah. So that's CC top right side, top left-hand side, but just not exactly looking too hot right now for SpeCial as Trigger. Gonna drop a few Zealots on top of this tank on the main base. Gonna kill that. We'll get straight to the other one. That's pretty much all the units. There is a BC attack on the other side, so SpeCial will try and create something of a base trade, I suppose, but I mean, he's not going to kill things anywhere near as quickly as Trigger will. Trigger will recall a bunch of Stalkers. He's losing power to his gateway, so he kind of needs to do something. He needs to make sure he has enough Stalkers to shut down these battle cruisers, man.
Yamato's up. Yeah, and I'm not sure if this is the best call for Trigger, because if SpeCial can somehow win this engagement, it doesn't look like he can, however. But yeah, so Trigger with the right calculation here. I wasn't so sure. But if it, you know, if this fight turns the way of SpeCial and he can keep a couple of BCs alive, yeah, I mean, on the other side, he still has enough to... Never mind, no chance, Jose. And Trigger will take a game number 2 as swift as SpeCial took the game number 1.
Yeah, man, that was just solid from him. And yeah, at the very end, you're right, just to touch on that, the fact that if he takes too many few Stalkers over there and the BCs win that fight, it is like a way SpeCial wins the game, because then he unpowers all the gateways, and then you never have enough anti-air to fight 4 BCs or something. It's like, oh, I'm actually checkmated when the game was in my hands. Like, that could have been a blunder, but Trigger sent the right amount home. It was very convincing, obviously, in the end. And yeah, I think convincing, just the word in general to be using on that one, because that was convincing start to finish from Trigger. Good defense against the initial BC, and just really good. I love the movement, knowing exactly that SpeCial was the kind of guy to move units across the map toward the third base while the BC's in the main. If you ask me, that's just knowing your opponent to a very high level and just being very aware of what he likes to do, and using that to your advantage to be able to take yourself, you know, into a 1-1 position and keep this series alive.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. And especially props to Trigger as well, because on the other side, quick to continue on pushing and not giving SpeCial the chance to really get any more units out or get a tank set up, etc. Where attack moving isn't really an option against Terran a lot of the time, because if tank set up, you need to target it, you need to blink on top of it, whilst also allocating some attention back at home to make sure that you're targeting those BCs, that you are able to win the engagement, that all the Yamatos don't go down, or even if the 4th BC joins a little bit sooner, it completely changes the equation as well. So yeah, big props to Trigger. I mean, clean as can be. He will take game number 2, and we are headed to a 3.
We are headed to a 3, and we're starting it off with the man in the top right that brought us to this game. Our blue Protoss from Basilisk, Trigger.
On the bottom left-hand side for Sidestorm Gaming, the Maru, it is SpeCial.
That's a yeah, fun to see the difference in sort of setup and SpeCial doing things a bit differently again. I do always stand by the fact that I feel like that's one of SpeCial's best traits, that he is so good at these weirder, aggressive builds that basically not everyone else is, doing a lot, so it's difficult for the opponents to be super practiced against them. It's the kind of thing that SpeCial just really, I feel like, hones his TVP on at the very least. And even TVT, like a very creative player, like, SpeCial was doing these 2-base mech-all-ins for a long time, and double starport, like super air Terran openings as well, and like all in and off of that. And just recently we saw a bit of that kind of popularizing TVTs. Just sort of shows you that a lot of the time SpeCial's fun and quirky builds, they're only fun and quirky until people realize, oh, that actually is good, and they take the time to learn it. So kind of similar to we were talking earlier about players being able to, Max Pax being able to kind of create his own builds and working with his own builds and all that sort of stuff and being smart enough to do them. And I think SpeCial is definitely in that kind of category as well.
Completely agreed. And he has a much larger repertoire than even MaxPax, I think. And that's especially good because, you know, he is a player that does excel at concealing information as well. And when your playbook is that deep, I mean, it's very difficult to account for everything on the other side. So you always have to be paranoid of something. And if SpeCial has a good randomizer on his side to choose his builds, you know, very difficult to see everything or anything sometimes coming. So yeah, big props to him. Perfect time as well in a series where you're not at a risk of elimination, where you're up one game. Let's do the build that maybe, you know, maybe even if it doesn't have as good of a success rate as some of your other builds, just getting that information out there, just saying, hey, Estrella, watch out, look at what I can do, could be worth it.
Especially when, realistically as well, even if you lose this series of SpeCial, you're very comfortable being able to go to playoffs, right? You know?
Yeah,
it's nice to go through 3-0, but he's got 2 more matches where he's probably going to be favored in each of those. I feel like it's not so crazy to say that SpeCial might be kind of okay, kind of... Not that he wants to lose the series, but like he's a bit more free in his play, right? This is not a must-win or you're out sort of situation, so maybe a bit freer, maybe a bit of a better chance to throw those wilder builds out into the games.
Yeah, play the long con, right? Play for reputation. Definitely a viable strategy if you feel very comfortable. He should. He's a heavy favorite for the region alongside pretty much just the players today and Scarlet.
Yep. Very true. These few Marines just going to go and push this Adept back. Shade will not go down, and good little pushback. Twilight Council building in the main base of Trigger, so has really been in love with this Blink opener. And is going to go for it one more time, it would seem. Gets a second gateway down. We'll see, again, just sort of what timing the third will come at. Of course, that's one of the biggest things we always check for in these Blink builds. As the Stalker don't get baited into the Widowmine, and he does not.
He does not indeed. So yeah, very well done by Trigger here. Gonna open the exact same way again with the Robo follow-up as well. So really on the lookout for the potential of SpeCial to do that Widowmine drop. And I don't think SpeCial is going for anything like that this game. So you know, if he finds a build that's favorable against what Trigger is doing consistently, that is also in his favor. And again, with the experience of SpeCial, I have to imagine that seeing the same opening 3 times in a row, he will pick a build that is, you know, at least comfortable or favorable against it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's Robo Facility comes on through. We just got ourselves the Wolf Gate setting up and a couple more simulators coming into play. One Adept of Trigger currently moving down through the middle of the map. And here comes our Widowmine drop. As SpeCial will try and get some of that damage done early, of course. Not as committed as that first game Widowmine. And the Stalkers are super well positioned here to just say, nuh-uh, not this time. Get out of here.
Super well positioned. At the same time, this is not a Widowmine drop that has a follow-up Widowmine drop. It's not 4 Widowmines. There is no armory this time around. It's just the 2. So still opportunities for Trigger to potentially misread here, potentially over-defend. And he is going to transition, by the looks of it, back into Colossus, which just seems to be his forte, his flavor here.
Yep. I'm down for it, right? Just blink into Colossus. It's kind of just... It's a bit old school, right? And at this point in time, like Blink Colossus, obviously, especially late, we've seen so much Phoenix Colossus. So, yeah, a little bit different. But if that's what Trigger is comfortable with, which I absolutely think he is at this point, then why the heck not? Liberator up the right-hand side, so still SpeCial looking to poke around and find some opening. Medevac's already boosting, but there's still Stalkers in position on the natural. For SpeCial, this is still just a nice check, though, because it's like, oh, Stalkers are still here. That means there can't be that many out the front. And he is pushing Marines, 2 tanks, and a couple SCVs. Going to try and come across as the Liberator in the main base also getting shut down. Again, the more these units just keep Stalkers back, though, the less Stalkers that can focus on the defense at the front. And Trigger opting for the Disruptor first here, Cats. It builds a little faster, it's a little bit more effective immediately, but it is that one shot, and you're done sort of unit, whereas the Colossus would have been more damage, you know, over time. Liberator finally finds a position back of the natural, gets a few probes, 6 workers going down, and a Stalker as well.
Yeah, with that very last shot there, though, Trigger does find a medevac. I don't think it was loaded, as I heard no screams.
There's the Widowmine medevac. So Widowmine's dropped on the third.
Oh, there was a Widowmine in there?
No, the Widowmine's unloaded on the third, and that's where the medevac came from. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So, yeah, I mean, Trigger will clean this up and not be without losses first. Beautiful disruptor shot here. SpeCial unable to punish, and Trigger just wonderful. Masterful cleanup of those two tanks.
Yeah, I was a little bit scared we were going for the blink in. Like, it makes sense, right? Go finish off the tanks that are low HP, but a little scary when your Soaks jump in like that. But you know what? All okay. It was very well done. Very well executed by Trigger, and he gets himself out of there without too many losses as we regather out the front of the natural. And SpeCial is adding on barracks number 4 and 5. That generally suggests we're going to be very aggressive on these two bases, and sometimes that means we never even see a third CC in these games. So we're positioning as though we're protecting the third base. Oh, SpeCial walks into the disruptor shot, and he was still moving forward after, man. He had no idea that was going on.
Oh, that's painful. I mean, you gotta be fuming a little bit if you're SpeCial, and if you're Trigger, a great opportunity that he creates for himself. Most people wouldn't even fire that shot without vision. The observer had just been taken out. So he fires just on the off chance that SpeCial was moving forward, and he was, and now SpeCial in quite a bit of trouble. No medevacs here to speak of. Steam only 50-60% of the way done. The tank trying to fend off against the Colossus, but it will end up falling to the Zealot. This Raven without energy not going to be able to contribute much either. The next tank does get sieged, and with this many Marauders, it's going to be difficult for Trigger to continue to do damage. But you were talking about it, Wardicho. This is supposed to be aggression coming out of SpeCial, and it's been cut before it starts.
Yeah, that was just I mean, everything just went wrong there. Just he was trying to be a feisty one, and he's just now going to drop a third CC. And yeah, Trigger, you got to feel amazing. Honestly, would have won the game if he had a Prism over here to reinforce instantly, but he did not. Impressive just to get that much done against a 2-base all-in. And it was that. Now we dropped down to third base. This was obviously never the initial intention. This was 100% meant to at least be a lot more fight from SpeCial before he goes back into a third CC behind it all. So yeah, he is in a ton of trouble. And this game is absolutely falling apart for SpeCial.
Yeah, 100% agreed. He just recognizes that his opponent is good enough that he's not gonna die to subsequent pressure after SpeCial loses so much, right? Those two tanks in the middle of the map, then another one back at home, and a good chunk of Marines as well. So yeah, I mean, that is the right read. The best shot for SpeCial now is being the defender and stabilizing as the game continues, whereas Trigger will have all the cards on the table to continue to expand, already actually dropping a 4th that's nearly completed. So yeah, just stack up, get your upgrades rolling, and look to elongate your advantage however you want, whether that is through macro or through aggression.
Yep, absolutely with you. Every step of the explanation. Just get ahead. You're in a great spot. Yeah, you can absolutely improve on your position here, and yeah, with the speed of the bases coming down, you will just have a monstrous army very soon compared to your opponents. So that's going to go a long way as well. As Trigger might even start moving across now. I don't mind if he pokes around and looks for an opening, looks for opportunities. You know, doing that in the first place is why he's done well in this game.
Yeah, on the other side, the Warp Prism of Trigger flew a little bit too close to the sun. There was turrets ready for SpeCial. SpeCial was paying attention and gets rid of that Warp Prism, which frees him up to go out on the map if he wants to, whereas before that was a threat that he would have had to leave even more units behind for. So maybe SpeCial, I don't know. I mean, this could be a trap onto himself, right? This could be game. Find the damage that he's looking for. These two medevacs have been spotted already, so he has to be very cautious, but will find the 4th without Trigger really being set up, and that means SpeCial gets to siege his tanks, maybe a little bit further away than he would have liked if known the position of the army, but on this high ground, potential to trade very well.
Good initial feedback, by the way. Just gets rid of the Raven, which could have caused a lot of trouble here too. SpeCial with a very, very good fight. Trigger just out of position. There's the double drop in the natural. Trigger did amazing, by the way, defending this double drop until right now. This is the first moment he's just really let it slip, and it's just SpeCial hitting in a couple different places that's really going to find some value out. The third CC is about to die. SpeCial! Oh, that's a very good Zealot run by that. Doesn't get better than that.
Zeroed. Props to the Zealot at the natural as well, distracting the troops and potentially occupying some of SpeCial's attention. And now SpeCial, he did have that very good trade. He reset things to where he could have macroed out of this situation, but not now, not anymore. Now that CC has been taken down, he is put in a position where he might have to just all in. I don't see a replacement CC going up. Ouch.
Oh my goodness.
Now he might want to consider another one of those.
Yup, this is just getting worse and worse. You see our Bioforce going to try and jump on forward. Couple Zealots getting shot at. Disruptor shot! Oh my god, SpeCial A little sloppy here today. Obviously pretty gone late over in Korea, and that might be having some impact because he is definitely having some misplays. Let's be frank, and we do have a massive counterattack at Trigger, who's holding on at home at the same time, and it's looking like Trigger is going straight to them playoffs.
He really is, and what a masterclass, really. I mean, from the beginning, from picking